Underway at this hour for two little girls, 10-year-old Lyric and little cousin 8-year-old Elizabeth. The two girls riding their bikes downtown Evansdale, lunchtime, broad daylight. Tonight, the search for the two little girl cousins, just 8 and 10. To CNN correspondent Jim Spillman, who's joining us there at Myers Lake. Jim, thank you.
They disappeared during a bike ride in Evansdale July 13th, but the FBI said there was reason to believe Lyric Cook Morrissey and Elizabeth Collins were still alive.
However, tonight, tragic news coming out of Evansdale that may turn this story from a search for two girls into a criminal investigation. News Channel's Emily Price is at the Evansdale Police Department where the announcements were made today. Emily?
Evansdale police say hunters found the two bodies this afternoon around 12:30. They say they were in a wooded area, but they're not saying exactly where those girls were found today. Investigators say now the bodies are being sent to the state medical examiner's office in Ankeny for autopsies to determine if they are in fact Lyric and Elizabeth. The families were told shortly after the bodies were found. Lyric Cook and Elizabeth Collins have been missing almost 5 months now. Police never named a suspect, and the reward grew to more than $150,000.
Bad timing for that. Right. So obviously today we're doing the Evansdale Live. Drew's here, he's backstage. What I want to say is, everyone just be respectful and your questions will get asked if we can get to them. We've outlined everything that we want. I want to apologise for the intro being a bit crackly and that. We've got some clips for you to see. Everyone show Drew some love, and let's get started with an introduction. So on July 13th, 2012, two cousins went out for a bike ride and never come home. Lyric Cook and Elizabeth Collins were abducted from Myers Lake. They left their grandmothers at around 12:15 p.m. and the grandmother told Lyric and Elizabeth to be back soon. After an hour, the girls had still not returned home to their grandmothers. The girls were last sighted alive between 12:30 and 1 p.m. by Gilbert's Drive next to Myers Lake. And sadly, on the 5th of December 2012, Lyric and Elizabeth were found deceased. They were found 20 miles from where they were last sighted. So remember, if you have any questions, I'm not going to pin them up and get him to answer them straight away. I'll star them if I think they're appropriate, and then we'll get to them when we've finished doing what we've got planned. Well, what I've got planned. So yeah, just keep respectful, and you know, most of you here that are respectful anyway. So yeah, let's bring Drew and Ruckus on. Hello.
There he is. Drew, you look handsome as ever.
Oh, sorry, Ruckus. Everything all right? Yeah.
Yeah, everything's good.
Right, so I think the best way to start would be if you could give a quick intro on each other, starting with Ruckus and then Drew, and then tell us how you both came to being friends and knowing each other.
All right. I started on this case, and I can't stress this enough, because of Mr. Steve. He introduced me to Drew and Larry at the same time. Drew and Larry had met prior to that. So we worked. We're working the case. We're doing things, trying to help law enforcement solve this case. But I got to meet and know Drew, and we become friends. And I'll send you the check for $100 for saying that, Drew, for saying that we're friends. I'll send you that. I'll cash app you. Yeah. But we became friends, and I usually go out this time of year every year, but this year I just can't make it, which kind of sucks. But um, yeah, I don't think I think I've got a friend for life now. I think Drew and I really hit it off, and I'll send you another 100 for that if you agree with that, Drew. It's all for my ego. Yeah.
Put it on your bar tab.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that'll work.
Time we went to
That'll
law.
work. And let's hear about you, Drew. That's what's the important thing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm the father of Elizabeth Collins and the uncle of Lyric Cook Morrissey. They went missing July 13th, 2012. And we've just been doing whatever we can to keep the story out there and to bring whoever did this to justice. So we're just getting to that time of year where we're kind of gearing up for the ride and drive we do every year. We do it usually right around the date they were taken. This year to be the 12th of July. Wish we get answers someday. And as time goes, I think sometimes people get discouraged, and it's easy to get discouraged. But time is on our side, and technology is going to be on our side. So I think it's just a matter of time before that day comes where I get the call, and hopefully whoever does this, so they can't do it again.
Yeah, definitely. So, the documentary that come out, the chap who made it, you become good friends with him as well, haven't you?
Oh, that made it?
Yeah.
Oh, Dylan, yeah. Dylan Sires, yeah.
Do you think he did a good? Do you think he did a good job?
Absolutely. He did a great job. He knows this case better than I know this case. He knows all the ins and outs, all the players, all the suspects.
Yeah.
He has a real good grasp on the case, and he worked this case from the beginning, anyways, because he was a cameraman for KWWL. So he's been following it, and like 2 or 3 years after they were found, the local anchorman Ron Steele called me and said, "Hey, I got this guy, and he's a really good guy, and he wants to do a documentary." And he introduced us, and we started kind of compiling interviews. We've done a little bit of traveling. We traveled to Texas and kind of all over Iowa, and he's interviewed everybody that'll interview. And he just did a really good job putting it together.
I think one thing that stood out for me with the documentary is like he genuinely knew like the case, and not just the case, people involved in the case, and do you know what I mean? Like yourself and your family and Lyric's family as well. He seemed to genuinely like be able to sit down and like how you and Ruckus were before we started. Do you know what I mean? He seemed a bit more laid back than Ruckus, but do you know what I mean? He seemed like really switched on, because when you watch documentaries like that, like you see them, they get filmed, and then the family say afterwards, like that is not how it was when we was. Do you know what I mean?
No, he's
Like they seem,
legit, and he cares
yeah,
about this. Cares about people. He didn't do it to make money. He didn't do it to for anything else but to get justice for the girls. He had 100% good intentions, and he did an awesome job. I can't even think of
yeah,
any that he didn't do well. I mean, he's just a genuine good person, and I think anybody that sits down and talks with him for any amount of time will tell you the same thing. He's just a good man, and he's a father of two, and he genuinely cares about people, and he wanted to tell the story, and I think he did a great job. I don't have any.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, he seemed to genuinely care. Like, when you watch a documentary like this, normally, once it's aired, family tend to speak up about it, saying that's not how we aired it and things like that. But he seemed like he genuinely represented you in my eyes.
He's got
So
great.
I thought that was good.
That's the one thing about him. He's got great integrity, and he didn't make empty promises. He told me he was going to tell it and not sensationalize it, and he just did a great job.
Yeah, he's a genuine person. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's only young as well, and that's another thing that's unusual. Normally, like, young people, like, they're the ones that tend to jump. Like, I mean, just look at YouTube. YouTube's quite. They'll interview a family member, and then the next day they're slating that family member out, and they're spreading all the rumors. Well, they told me this privately, and it's just disgusting how things like I've got like. So, my next question for you is: in the documentary, a woman mentioned seeing two girls being taken into a car by a man. Do you know if this was ever confirmed to be Elizabeth and Lyric, or whether it was dismissed? No, you don't.
That didn't come forward for a couple days. She was on her way to Minnesota or something, and so when she got back here, like the next week, she turned that tip in. But I don't know. They don't tell me if things are confirmed. They are very secretive on this case.
Yeah, of course, yeah, for the investigation.
They won't even tell me if they know.
Yeah. So,
You don't tell.
so there's no description of. Say again.
And they said we won't even tell you that.
Okay. So, like, there's no description of the vehicle or the man then, because I'd have thought that would have been something that they'd have put out in it. So that's that then.
Of a vehicle being seen down on Arbutus, where the bikes were found, kind of on that road, like a boxy, older style white, either truck with a topper or like a suburban style, older model. But you don't know, just a vehicle that was over there that didn't have anything to do with it, or if it did have something to do with it. We don't really know that.
And law enforcement's not sharing anything. Nothing at all.
Nope, no evidence.
Well, I mean, I understand that, because like they got to protect their investigation, and I mean, there's so many times. I mean, look for example, the Coburger case. They kept everything close to their chest, and then all of a sudden, right at the end, someone threw out a documentary with all the evidence and everything in, and it could have ruined the case. All that work gone down the drain.
And for what? Just to disseminate information to people who aren't going to do a goddamn thing to help the case. They just want to know. You know, they're nosy fuckers is what they are. But law enforcement in this case, they're keeping it tight to their chest like they should. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll ask this one here in the audience. Oh God. So, is it going to come up on screen? Any truth to report Lyric and Elizabeth being in a store talking to a man the day they went missing? I'm guessing that's going to be the same answer as the one before, isn't it?
I've never heard. I mean, I hear a lot of stuff. I haven't really heard that. You know, I do hear a lot of things, but I don't know, how much stuff is true. But I've never heard that they were talking to a man at the grocery store. You would think that grocery store would have a camera too. So
Yeah. Well, let's move on from that. Do you know if if the girls were held up for a period of time, or if what happened around about the day that they were taken, or is that again something that's close to the chest?
yeah, I mean that's going to be something. They,
Yeah.
statistically speaking, um, they're not kept for very long when they are murdered. It's sometimes only a few hours. So,
Yeah.
well, maybe someday we will, but at this point we don't know.
Yeah.
It is frustrating after being 13 years, but I just keep reminding myself, you know, time time has a way of bringing these things forward as far as people coming forward later on or evidentiary. So we're just kind of holding out for hope and hoping that somebody has the courage someday, that knows something. Maybe it was their dad and he was acting weird about that time and he did something, or maybe it's going to be evidence driven and a new technology, because they have to have left something, um, either at the site the bikes were taken, on the bikes, on the purse, on the bodies, somewhere in that Seven Bridges area. You would think that they would have to have left something to get evidence off of.
And that answers Sleuth's question. So Sleuth was just asking along them lines, are they discussing with you at all technology is advancing and any hopes for that avenue? And you basically just answered that.
He just sat there and didn't say it. He was like,
Drew, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Uh,
It's,
I just came back in, and Bonnie said that you guys were talking about the grocery store. Drew, remember the girls were riding by the grocery store, and they had to ask the man that worked there where the bike trail was.
yeah,
That's what he's referring to.
yeah, that I believe is true.
Yeah,
In directions, they went by the grocery store, not a convenience store, it's a grocery store, and
right.
guy how to get on the bike trail. I I believe that.
And according to that gentleman, they rode their bikes across the parking lot, then got off and put them over the curb, down the grass, and onto the bike path, and started heading towards the lake. But I mean, that is where, and Steve and I have talked about this several times. To me, to me and Steve, well, to me, mostly to me, I don't want to speak for Steve. That's the starting point, because there had to have been a ruse, prior to that, to get the girl. Why are they looking for the bike trail and stuff like that? So that's what it makes the most sense, is they were already heading that way. They were asking for directions how to get to that bike trail. They both knew they could ride down the road to get to the Myers Lake, right?
I would think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're 8 and 10. They live in the neighborhood. You think they know the road, but they were looking specifically for the bike path, which to me points towards a ruse. Someone wanted them on the bike path, out of sight, to get down there. But that's just my
Sleuth,
opinion.
Sleuth says, why were they motivated to get to the bike trail? Maybe lured, asked to meet a certain area of the park.
I mean, I would love to know for sure what happened, because where Frank, where they were abducted from is the only place in that whole area where they would have been trapped, didn't have a choice. You know, it was a perfect setup where they were
What
taken
I'm going to
from.
do, Ruckus, what I'm going to do is, while we talk, I'm going to play your drone footage. So
Okay.
this area that you're about to see. This is Myers Lake and uh,
Yeah.
the location the abduction happened.
Now it's called Angels Park now because of the island. But if you look,
Yeah.
you know, that's the highway. Now keep in mind that far lane was closed. All traffic was using the closer lane, going back and forth. It was one way going each direction, and the speed limit is down to like 35. They were working on the road there, and that's when that older gentleman, his name eludes me. We called him Santa Claus. He knew, he recognized Elizabeth and saw her walking, her and Lyric walking their bikes towards the lakeside, towards this corner right there. That's where they were taken from. Well, that's where their bikes were found, and Elizabeth's purse. It makes sense if you look at the whole story of, you know, where they started at. They have them on camera up on Drew Street, and then finding the bikes there. It just makes sense that that was a plan. There was a ruse to get them there.
So Sleuth says, in order to be lured, you need to have contact with the killer. When would she have a chance to be lured specifically by someone familiar with Myers and Seven Bridges?
Well, there's a lot involved with that. That's kind of a open end question. Um, they could have been abducted or lured by somebody they knew or were familiar with. That doesn't mean that that has to be the perpetrator that did the ultimate act. Look at Charles Manson, for instance. You know, he never met any of those people. But so you have to keep that in mind. We don't know. That's where the bikes were found and the purse was found. They could have been dumped there. I doubt it, but you can't say it didn't happen. You follow me? That's where the bikes were found.
Yeah.
That's where Elizabeth's purse was found, but they could have been dumped there.
Okay. So my next question. Now this one's a bit of a touchy one, but I was asked to ask it. Now this one you might not be able to answer anyway, or even have the information on. Have you been informed of a cause of death? If so, is that something that you'd be able to share or talk about without it affecting the case or investigation?
They never,
No.
they won't tell me. They won't, like I said before, they won't even tell me if they know how they were killed.
Yeah.
So, but going back to, where the bikes are found, if you've ever been there, like Ruckus can say this because he's been there. Like, if you've ever been there, you know what we're talking about. There's fences on each side. There's a gradual slope going down to Arbutus. If you're riding your bike down there and you get to that point, somebody has their vehicle trunk open or something at the end of that, like in the woods. They could grab the girls there. Nobody can hear them on the highway side. Nobody can hear them in those houses. They could scream all they wanted. Nobody could hear them. So that's like what he said, the perfect place to
Yeah.
take them. I don't personally. I don't think the bikes were just dumped there. I think they were lured there by some sort of ruse, and that person was waiting on Arbutus for them to come around there. And once they got to a certain point, uh, there was nothing they could do. They couldn't have run out of there. They could have been grabbed, or one of them could have been grabbed and threatened with a knife or a gun, and the other one would have stayed. I don't think one would leave the other one. I think they would have, if they said, "Hey, don't do anything, or I'm going to hurt her," they wouldn't have. They wouldn't have left each other.
And even though it's a bike path, it's plenty
So
wide for a vehicle. Drew, you've been on there with all around there with your vehicle, right? Around the whole bike path.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
they could have driven that, and like I drive on there, and it's supposed to be for official vehicles only, but I'll drive on there, and no one calls it in. No one. If some,
So the image that you're looking at, chat, is an image of where the bikes were approximately located. They marked it out with either Ruckus's or Steve's backpack. I circled it to highlight it a bit better.
but it was on the.
So this is the path.
It was tossed over
God,
the.
sorry.
It was over the fence, so it was on the in the bushes right on the lake shore.
Yeah, the purse was.
Yeah,
Yeah, see,
Here.
that's over the fence. The bikes were leaned up against the fence inside the fenced area.
I don't know if they were leaned or on the ground. I can't remember, but the purse
Yeah.
was over the fence.
Yeah. So yeah. So you was talking about the pathway and the bike area. I've got some footage here of that to show like how secluded it is and how easy it would be to get trapped in there.
Now from here, Gibbo, it goes from wide open, and this is what it would have looked like back
Yeah.
then because it was July. Yeah, but it's all downhill there. You're coasting. You don't have to pedal at all. You're coasting. It's going down. It's down slope. It's hard to tell with the drone because it has a gimbal that keeps it level.
There's the legendary Mr. Steve.
He's a national treasure.
And fuck him.
Yeah.
I love Steve.
He'll kick your ass, Ruckus.
We have some fun, Steve and I.
I don't think Steve finds it fun, but you probably do.
Yeah, Steve probably doesn't even like me. Yeah, exactly. Can't blame him, Drew. Can you?
More of a job for him. Just watching.
Yeah. Well, most of the
Have you
time he's
have you heard
carrying
the
my
story
shit.
have you heard the story of Ruckus and the tranny?
Say that again. The what?
Ruckus and the tranny woman.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, mind your business, both of you.
Yeah. Okay. So as we just talked about the person, it's on the well, it's not on the screen, but the area is on the screen. They found Elizabeth's purse and phone near the bikes. Was there any information again? I don't think you're going to be able to answer this, but was there any information gathered on the phone that could share? That could. This is basically like locations or anything that could support the investigation.
I don't know the answer to that.
You don't know the answer. I didn't think.
Really, guys,
But
I don't know much more. I mean, I hear lots of rumors and I've got lots of theories, but I don't know much more than I did 13 years ago.
yeah.
You
Would
know,
you want to
You can
tell us a
see.
bit about Elizabeth?
oh, well, she was very bubbly and she was full of it. Like she was a really good sister. She was she played hockey. She liked baseball. She loved her. She had a dog named Gus that we had just bought her before this happened, like probably a month before. Um, she just a normal little 8-year-old girl, and it's crazy that our kids can't even go and play without somebody taking them. I see other young kids around without anybody around still. kind of freaks me out because this guy's still out there. But yeah, it was just
Okay, so
she was
trying to.
always
Sorry, go on.
she would get in trouble. Her and Lyric they were like sisters. They fought a lot, but then they would always get back together. They'd have like really dramatic fights, and then we would separate them, and then it would be time for Lyric to go home, and then they would be begging to let Lyric spend the night. We were like, you just fight, like 5 minutes ago. Now you want to. They were very close. More.
So moving away from the investigation as far away as I can, because. So, do you personally think this was a lone wolf incident, or there were multiple people involved?
I think if Klunder he did not alone. He has a friend here that's very, very close to him. I talked to that friend on the documentary. I think he would have come up here and not got a hold of his buddy. Very, very possible that they were involved together. Oh, they that they have proof that Klunder wasn't here. I don't think that person I interviewed would have done this on his own. I think he's more of a follower. I think Klunder is definitely more of a leader. So, I don't think that guy would have acted alone. Other people that I'm on my list, and I have quite a few that kind of you hear things about, and I just kind of waiting and just waiting, for something clear for that point person. But I don't have any evidence to back anything I think up. So obviously, Klunder's a little different. He went and little girls. One of them, Desi, was, to me, she's just an amazing human. Like
Very brave.
just a little girl, and she got up. She didn't lay down and wait to be killed. She fought like hell, and she got away. And I still talk to her to this day. We communicate back and forth, text messages and stuff. And to me, just I think what's done there. So to me, um, I know, for it's very hard because
Lucas, you got some
she,
feedback coming through. Have you got something by your phone?
No, why?
I just muted you and the feedback stopped. You got some feedback coming through, that's all.
Oh, well, yeah, there's cicada bugs. Nothing I can do about them. There's millions of them. Every once in a while, they
Oh,
make noise. I'm sorry. I apologize.
no, it's all right.
no, but what I was
So,
saying is
Lucas, I'm gonna. Oh,
she
God, sorry.
balls to get up and fight. Otherwise, there would and she's probably, like, I've talked to her a little bit, and she feels bad. Feels like she left her friend there, but if she would, he would be with her. And because she had the guts to get up, we have no other victims from that dirtbag. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
he's
survivor's
definitely a
better than
piece of
none.
shit. Now, now, Drew, when you talk to Troy, right? Now that wasn't a scheduled meeting. He didn't know you were going to be walking up to him, did he?
no,
That was amazing. You guys got that set up so well, and the audio and the video came out so well on that, which is seldom does. Law enforcement doesn't do that good a job. So But between you and the crew, you guys did a great job on that. But Troy's a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit. But you guys did a great job, and that was my favorite part of that whole documentary, was you walking up and talking to him like that.
Yeah, I definitely would say I surprised him. And the thing is, I don't know what's so hard about it. Uh, you know, it's just the guy who killed my, uh, and you want to do something crazy, and at the same time telling yourself like, you don't know for sure.
Okay, I've got something here actually about Michael Klunder. So for the chat, because some of you might not know, because I actually had some questions about Michael Klunder, but you you literally from that other question you went in and answered them. So just to explain to the guys in the chat, Michael Klunder was involved in two separate incidents involving two people being taken at the same time. Double abductions are extremely rare, with only 17 in the USA between 1974 and 2013. Two of those, no, three of those were in Iowa, and two have been confirmed to be Michael Klunder. So that's just a little background on Michael Klunder for you. For those that don't know the case, or
Fortunately, well, I guess, it would have been nice for them to be able to interrogate him, but I think, he's a coward, obviously. He knew he was going back to prison. He knew his ass was cooked because Desi got away. So he knew he was cooked. And he took the cowardly way out, like you would expect, and killed himself. So no one was able to question him. They found him dead, like later that night or the next day or something. So, unfortunately, we won't be able to ask him any questions. So,
yeah, and the other girl didn't get her justice either, which is a pain. But at least he's not going to hurt anyone. That's the only thing we can go with on that, really. But it'd have been better to see him, serve his justice. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing with Klunder is that, he was sentenced to 40 years. And he did 20 because of good time and for taking sex offender classes and all that. But he was friends with two different people that lived either close to Drew or that knew Drew while he was in prison. He met them in prison. Now, that Troy fucker that Drew spoke to, he lived like basically at the end of Drew's street.
his daughter rode the bus with Elizabeth.
Exactly.
The bus stop was in front of my house, and they had to drive down. They drove down here most mornings and watched her get on the bus, and then they would leave.
And Gibbo, can you believe that this asshole didn't want to talk to me? He doesn't like me, he said.
I don't think many people do like you, Ruckus, if I'm honest.
They don't. No, they don't. Well, they're smart. But this little cocksucker, he's a pain in the ass, man. He's a little weaselly prick. And I'm here to tell you, if Klunder told him to do something, he'd have done it. No doubt in my mind.
That's why I don't think.
I mean, he
would act alone to do that. But I think if Klunder was there, if Klunder was here doing something, he would. He was a follower, I think.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Drew, is that if there was a ruse prior to the grocery store, right, which was down the street from you, he would have been not out of place to be in that area. Like when the girls rode by on the bike, he could have been outside. And I'm just saying it could have been. I wanted to talk to him to try and put some shit to bed. But the more he avoided me, the more suspicious he looked. And the same thing, and I don't mind throwing names out at all. The same thing with Gamer Dinger. He didn't want to talk to me either. He told me to go fuck myself. So I got to give him credit.
That we do know is they were seen riding towards um, that house that Conklin lived on. We have videotape of them riding towards that house, and then the next sighting we have of them is going to be the guy at the grocery store.
Correct.
So I mean, maybe they went that way, and that's where the ruse took place. Hey, go meet us over there, and they said we'll take you for a ride on a boat or on the lake or something. Who knows?
Exactly. But the thing is, why didn't if that was the case, if they were together, if Klunder was together with Troy and all that, they could have just taken the girls to Troy's house, unless his girlfriend was there or somebody else was there or whatever. But they created a ruse. Somebody definitely created a ruse. There's no doubt in my mind. And that's why they asked that guy in the parking lot at the grocery store, the employee there, how to get to that bike trail. So that was an
Okay, the
adult
question
who.
here about the grocery store.
Go on then.
Did the grocery store not have surveillance video?
Not that I've ever seen.
No, they did not. It
Okay.
wasn't a big
What's that?
grocery store. It was a neighborhood grocery store, not a convenience store. It was a grocery store. But,
Good,
you couldn't get gas there and the such, you know.
good size store. It's Iowa.
Well, yeah, for Iowa. All right. For Iowa, yeah.
It's a big name grocery
Yeah.
store.
Okay. So,
Now, this video is
so
driving from the place of the abduction out to the discovery site. So you can see how far away it is and how desolate it is. You don't pass many houses or businesses or anything like that. And Drew, you grew up in that area. Did you know about Seven Bridges?
I'd never been there.
okay, Ruckus, this is a question for you both, but
20.
you
It's
might
like
you might as well answer.
so.
No, go on.
Are you
Andrew,
talking
you were
about the
saying
one that you
something?
have highlighted?
No, they're just comments I was pulling up. Do we know when they were put, where they were? Oh, okay. So, do you believe that they were kept for? We asked that one earlier on Dark Side. He said he doesn't. He doesn't know.
The fact that they were
So,
found with the clothing that they had on and their footwear, it tells you they're probably taken directly there. That that's that's what I think, that they were taken directly there, out there.
okay. So while we're still at this point, so Michael Klunder was cleared by the police due to his phone locations. Going off what I learned in the documentary, he left his phone at home due to probation or something along them lines. So my question to
Yep.
you two would be: uh, do you believe he was not involved based on the information, or is he still on your radars, as in like your personal radars?
I can't exclude him.
Yeah,
I can't exclude him.
What about you, Drew?
I can't exclude anyone, especially. I mean, with no information, I mean, we can speculate and speculate. but we really can't say, oh, it could be, because we don't know the information that they have. I think that phone thing, saying, well, they have his phone pinging somewhere else. If that's the case, I mean, maybe he left his phone because he wasn't allowed to. Maybe they knew they were going to do something crazy, and they just he left his phone there. I don't know, or maybe he was afraid of getting caught, being on parole. I don't know, but we know that he's sick enough to do this for sure, 100%. And there's not a lot of people that are sick enough to take an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old and murder them. There's only so many people that are that sick, I think. Like, and we know he is. Like
Absolutely.
a lot of these, we can speculate if they are or not, but we know damn for sure he is one sick, sadistic human.
He
And
didn't
you
even
know
ever
these
try and hide it or anything.
being on both sides of law enforcement at different elements. I've seen this a lot, right? Now he was a big guy. He was like what, 6'4", 6'5", Drew Klunder? He was a big guy, worked out with weights, right? Imposing figure. But yet he was an ideal inmate. So he'd get his game time. He minded his business. He took the programs, all that stuff. Then get out and get right back to the same shit as he did before.
Yeah, but
So
wouldn't
this,
that come down to, like going off his crimes? Wouldn't that go down to him being manipulative?
oh, absolutely. Well, they all are. Any murderer is manipulative. You have to be, and you have to play off a human emotion. People don't think that you're going to do things to them. You can work them, but
Of course,
he's just a piece of shit. And in prison he was a perfect inmate. Well, then he gets out, and my point is he was also friends with these other two people that are from that area. Um, so they all learn together. They come out as better criminals. They don't get rehabilitated. They come out as better criminals.
and of course he's going to be good when he's in there, because that guy in prison would be the victim, not the victimizer. So a guy like that, he really has to toe the line in there, because he'll get the shit kicked out of him if he doesn't.
Oh, you talking about Troy?
I'm talking about Clund, like him being a model. Uh,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah. Because he was in prison for taking two toddlers and throwing them in a
Yeah,
dumpster. That's the reason he was in prison. But they don't know, Drew. I don't know how it is there, but in Florida, the other inmates don't know what you're there for once you get to prison. All of that shit's sealed by classification. Even the correctional officers can't find out without good reason what they're in there for. And that's why they do it. It saves problems for the prison system. So he could walk around like he's a Billy Badass. I mean, he was a big dude and he was built. And nobody would know why he's there outside of him taking sexual offender courses. But they all say the same thing. Oh, my girlfriend was 15. Her parents got mad at me. They all use the same bullshit fucking story. But I'm saying I can't eliminate him. I can't eliminate Gamer Dinger. He's still on my list. But something's got to give. And the way law enforcement's acting now with me, poking my nose in saying, hey, listen, I have a person who take that DNA and there's like, well, we're waiting for the lab to catch up. That tells me they either have DNA or they have something they think they can extract DNA from. And that's what Colleen can do. So I hope they take us up on that deal. Let's just get it done. You know what I mean?
well, the state just purchased uh, new stuff that's state of the art just for this. They were going to send it off, and then they decided that we'll just buy the stuff to test it ourselves. So, 13 years ago, they couldn't, if they had a mix of DNA from, say, animal DNA and then human DNA, they couldn't separate it. Now with this new stuff, they can separate that stuff, and then also all small, tiny stuff that the eye can't even see, that might have been on their clothing or their shoes or the bikes. They're able to take very minuscule pieces of evidence and get DNA from it. So the state of Iowa has this themselves at their disposal now, so they don't have to send stuff off. They have it right there. They can just do it themselves. So that's a great leap for this case. So
I
I'm
hope they have it. I
waiting
hope.
patiently for that to kind of happen. So
Well, if you,
Just gonna
it's just my opinion.
this
Again,
one's well. This has come up. So investigators have said publicly that there's no connection to Delphi. I think now that Delphi's done with, I think it's obvious there isn't a connection.
there was never a
'Cause-
connection to Delphi.
no, obvious. It's obvious now, isn't it? Not blessing you. Not blessing you. Not knocking your blessings. I'm just saying, like they haven't mentioned Alan's been questioned for anything, or the Iowa police want to come and question him, and things like that would be all over the media. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
they did talk to Indiana and shared information, and
Yeah.
they were put that to rest quite a while ago.
Yeah,
And these are all fair, great questions, by the way. They really are.
yeah.
Nobody really, unfortunately, I'm hoping now, Drew, now that Delphi's over, that Kohlberger pled out, Karen Reed's done, I hope people start looking more into this case, bringing awareness out, because you never know who knows what out there, you know? So I'm glad that, people are watching and asking these questions and stuff like that. But in my opinion, as far as the DNA goes, Drew, the bikes, your daughter's purse, the fence, the surrounding area, that's their best chance for usable DNA, because the girls, unfortunately, were out in the elements for a while. So that, DNA will get ruined like that. So if you ask me, their best chance is off of that stuff. So I'm glad that when they initially did this investigation, that they were wise enough not to ruin anything, so it can still be looked at.
I don't think this case is going to be solved by a tip at this point. If we were going to get a tip, I think we would have got it. I think maybe some of those tips, maybe a few of those tips, they got information that'll help them put it together, but I think it'll be solved by technology.
I agree.
Driven.
Yeah, I agree. That's 100%. I mean, I hated the reason why we got to meet, but I'm very glad we got to meet, dude. You're a good dude. You're a shitty hockey player, but you're a good guy. You
Yeah.
should you should see him playing hockey, Frank.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. His skate broke. The blade broke off of it, and nobody knew the difference. He played the same, without a skate.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Hockey
Ruckus
player.
told me and Aurora about a group that you're involved with.
Oh,
The group is parents and family members that have come through the same situations as yourself. Could you tell us about this group and your involvement with the group, like?
yeah. It's called Team Hope, and it's through the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And like when Elizabeth and Lyric went missing, when we called into the Center for Missing and Exploited Children, they asked us if we wanted to talk to a parent that has been through what we've been through, and they hooked me up with a guy named Ahmad, and he's from New York, and he had two twin daughters. They were kidnapped, and somebody slit their necks and threw them in a ditch. One of the girls somehow crawled out of that ditch and stopped a motorist. She was safe. Her sister wasn't. And so they hooked me up with this guy. I think probably because he had the two girls, and they tried to hook you up with people with kind of similar things. So I started doing that probably 2013. I decided I wanted to be a part of that, and I've been a part of that since about then. And when a kid goes missing, a lot of them are runaways or parental abductions and stuff like that. So they run the gamut of all sorts of missing persons. But if there's a missing person, they'll ask that parent, "Hey, would you like a parent that's gone through this to help you kind of as you're going through this?" So I've been able to meet a lot of amazing people over the last few years doing that at the center, and people that I've got to talk to and kind of help them through those times. I met my great friend Larry Crum, who also, I definitely want to get a shout out to his case. His daughter's name is Amber Crum. It's a case from 1983 that's never been solved. And, Larry's never stopped looking for his daughter. His wife, on the other hand, and her bunch have never looked for their daughter because they know where she's at. And I've got a great friend there, and we kind of, I was always supposed to be calling Larry and helping Larry, but if anything, I've gotten way more out of that than Larry ever did. So I definitely want to shed some light on his daughter and her case. And Larry's a fighter. He's going down swinging. He's been looking for 44 or 43 years for his daughter, and he's just an amazing guy, an amazing friend, and
He'll never stop.
his story. Yeah, it's just he's a one of a kind of guy. When Larry's talking, you're listening because Larry's had an amazing kind of up and down life, but he's got a lot of stories that the things he's been through since this took his feet out from him. It took his sanity probably for a while, and he's just been able to work through it and come out on the other end and still fighting.
And Drew, how many women, once they find out that his ex-wife comes from money, how many women have come forward saying they were Amber Crum?
Oh, probably over a half dozen.
Yeah. Can you imagine? And everyone has to be, Larry's hopes get up and then it's shot down. Now, you got to see him this over the past couple days. How's he doing? Is he doing all right?
But I go there every 4th of July because his case happened on Christmas Day, and so Larry doesn't like Christmas, but once a year on the 4th of July, he gets all of his buddies together, and we just
the boat race, right?
Yeah, the regatta in Madison.
Yeah. How's Patty?
What's that?
Was she there? Was Patty there? His friend Patty?
But yeah, he's doing great. We got a chance to, some of the people there, his friends, he doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And so some of the people there have been hanging out with Larry and have just found out about it in the last few years. They just didn't know because it's hard to talk about for him. So it's a good release for him. I think, getting together every year. And we talked about it on Saturday night. A few of us were just around drinking a few beers, and we just talked about it. And I don't know, it's good to see, for me, like I can get down because it's been 13 years, and I look at my buddy, and he doesn't know where his daughter's at after 43 years, and it kind of brings me back to realize, other people have it worse.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
other.
no doubt. No doubt. Did he have any of his moonshine?
I may have had a little moonshine.
That's the best moonshine I've ever had in my life.
So, you say you want to shine some light. Like, I'll get Ruckus to help me out, and we'll do a live for him. Like, put out the information for Larry, like on his daughter's case. And I mean, if you can get Larry to come on, I'll have him on. Like, and he can tell his story himself.
People
And
will, because Larry's one of a kind. So I think people would definitely relate with Larry, and he doesn't pull punches. He says it how it is, and he's a super cool guy. And he's coming. He's coming to the ride. He's coming to the ride Saturday. So I went there last weekend. He's driving here this coming weekend, and
Are you gonna let him drive the Trans Am?
when Larry comes, that Trans Am is. He don't let me drive it.
That was funny when I was telling you won't do a burnout in his.
He took my mom in the car with him. My mom's 81, and
Oh,
my mom's like, "I'm not riding with Larry anymore. He's
yeah.
crazy."
How's your mom doing, brother?
Mom is awesome.
Tell her I said hello.
Well,
And your sister, that the first time I
okay,
met her,
so
I didn't know who she was. She came walking up to the house, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this?" I was there waiting for you, and your sister showed up. She's nice. Your whole family's nice.
this one's for you, Drew. This is from Sloop Intuition. You've been on his channel before. Drew, is it possible they declare this as a solved but not solved case? The FHX canal killer was linked to 2 other murders, and some were declared solved but not solved. They knew who was responsible.
I think they would have done that already, Sleuth.
Yeah, you think that?
Honestly, in this case, I've talked to Jason. I think they would have done it already, to be honest with you.
you would think.
But Drew, you need to put me. I'll cash app you the money. You need to put a shirt aside for me. I've got the last 2 for this for the ride.
Right.
The new one. I don't know if you have any extra small spandex, but that's what I need. Extra small spandex.
Don't do that.
I'll walk around with it.
So Drew, a while back, Ruckus come to meet with you, and he brought a few people with him. Is it okay for them to come up and have a moment with you?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, you
So
can put me
Jinx,
down. It put me on down for a minute there, Frank, so they can come up. Okay.
yeah,
I'll stay in. I'll
okay,
stay in the backstage.
okay. So Jinx, rescue, if you want to come up, and I'll get the image. So I don't know if you want this on screen. To be fair, no. So Ruckus come to see you, and he brought some friends, good people. Kristen, I think, has got some health worries, so not really online as much lately. Otherwise, I'd have said she could come up as well.
Yeah, I think it
Jinx
was
says 1 second.
February or December. I can't remember, one of those. I want to say December, maybe. They thought it was cold. It really wasn't cold. Maybe to them, but Are you having problems getting them on?
See, like, I wasn't gonna do a channel. I never had any intention in doing it, but Jinx nagged me to do it. You lost the link, Rescue. 1 second. See, Jinx doesn't need a link because we every now and then we do a Flora live together, and so she can come up. She can do whatever I can do on the StreamYard. So yeah, about Larry, I'll get Ruckus to get me the information on the case, and I'll go through it all and that, and I'll put a live together for Larry if it helps his case because how many years? 40.
42 or 43 years. And nothing. It's like 13 years for me with nothing, but him 43 years with absolutely nothing. It's crazy. And there's so many other cases I hear about that are going so long and they don't have any, there's nothing going on. The police aren't working it. We're pretty fortunate that we still have, Jason and Scott Rieger and everybody's still working our case. It's after 13 years, but a lot of these cases, after 6 months or 4 months, hey,
Hi.
it's still there for the families, and so many of those cases just get lost in the stuff. New cases come in, police get working new cases, and then more cases.
So Jinx is here now, and Rescue's just come up.
Hi, Drew. How are you?
I'm
Yeah,
good.
I said hi.
There you
Hi,
are.
Drew.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you, Sugar?
Good.
Hi again, Drew.
Who are we missing?
Ruckus.
No,
And Christine. Yeah, we're not missing him. So did you have a good 4th of July with Larry?
I did. It was a good time.
That's awesome. And then you guys are doing a ride this coming weekend?
What's that?
You guys are doing a ride this coming weekend?
Yeah, we do a motorcycle ride every year. It basically funds Cedar Valley Cruisers, and then the rest goes to
That's so wonderful.
we do. It's nice because we do a thing called the sign. And, anyway, we make posters for their victims, unsolved cases. They're like on poster boards, and the cases can come out, and we ride by the park. Those members get a hold up the family as the bikes go by. It's a good reminder for the motorcyclers that this is what we're doing it for. We're doing it for these families. The other case, we do support the Crime Stoppers, their tip line for all cases, not just ours. So these families, a lot of these cases are very old. Some of them are unfortunately not about very much. So it's a chance for these family members to come out, talk about their cases, show their loved ones pictures, and meet other people that are kind of going through the same thing. After a few years, people get to see each other every time this, and are getting family people are getting to meet each other, and it's a good way for them to meet people that are kind of probably my favorite part. We go by the park, the open park. All these pictures of all these homicide victims are up, and the bikes slow down. A lot of the people are saying, yelling stuff. People giving them encouraging messages and stuff like that. It's really cool.
This is why I will always say you are such an inspiration. I mean, seriously, not only are you fighting for your girl and her friend, her best friend, but you're out here making sure that other unsolved cases are getting heard as well. And I'm telling you, Angel Island is just, if y'all ever get a chance to go out there, it is so beautiful. And Drew has put in so much time and effort, and it's just, and he, like, the day that we went out there, y'all, he was telling us about each individual case, and he knew so much information. Like, it was so hard to take all the information in because he was just filling us in with everything that was out there and their cases and the details of that case. Like, Drew, you're an amazing man.
It's just, we didn't want it to just be about our girls. You never really think about stuff until you're, unfortunately. But so many of these cases are, 30 years old and they don't get attention. And those families are still there, just like it was the first day. They're not different than we are. They're still struggling through those Christmases, through birthdays, through holidays. That person that will take them. So, it's just a good way. And so many people were there for us when we were going through this. So it's a good way to get back to Waterloo and the Cedar Valley. And those, we do support the tip line for tips on any of these crimes. So it's just a good way to give back some of us along the way,
It's amazing, seriously. Like, wow. That's all I can say is every time I think about you, I'm just like, oh, Rescue's having some.
Yes, I'm having all kinds of issues. Drew, you absolutely blew us away. That was an amazing day. We had a great time. And the fact that you knew every story at Angels Park, I don't know, it was like, what, 2 degrees that day? That was amazing. That was amazing. You gave us so much time.
$2 degrees when we was huddled together.
Yeah, I didn't feel either one of them. It was so cold.
And I was talking about in chat how whenever we were going to Seven Bridges, Drew actually stopped and kind of pointed out the sign that directed us there. And y'all, I'm telling you, if you weren't paying attention, you would have just driven right by it. Like, it is such a small turn, and it is literally, the sign is right there, maybe 25 feet before the turn, if that.
And doesn't it point the wrong way as well? He tells you to go left and you got to go right.
No.
Right.
I remember, I got the footage and I was playing it, and Ruckus is guiding me through it. And he said, he goes, look, what's the sign? And it said, go left. Then they turned right.
That was a fun day. That was a really fun day.
Yeah, it was a good time.
So what you went out there and you seen everything? Well, what was that like as an experience for used to? Because used to are quite involved with other cases as well, and like you got Flora, you just go and you decorate the kids' graves, and you was going to the Delphi hearings and trial. So you used to are quite active with cases, aren't you?
Yeah. Jinx and I met through Flora and Delphi, and we've become really good friends.
Says you.
Oh, I don't claim you half the time. It's okay. Drew knows all that.
Yeah, he's never there with you either, but we've both seen his driving too, so.
That's very true. Where'd Ruckus go?
He didn't want to be on screen.
So when are you going to see Larry again? Drew, when are you going to see Larry again?
Coming to the ride Saturday.
Saturday, okay. Just this Saturday, okay.
That's what you guys should come to. You guys should definitely go to the ride someday.
I saw that on Facebook. I'll have to check with my wingman. Jinx.
So,
she knows that's her.
Drew, Sleuth asked, how do you feel about FBI going door to door in Flora?
Great question.
Flora, not in Evansville.
Yeah, so in Flora, Indiana, just the other day, it was like actually yesterday, I guess. The FBI came out and was working in with Indiana State Police. They were working together, and they were going and knocking door to door and trying to collect new tips, even from people they've already spoken to before. Trying to hopefully make some headway in this case. But like I said, they came out and they made their presence known. They put out a press release and everything that they were working with the Indiana State Police to go door to door and try and dredge up some new tips, some new information. Hopefully someone has spoken out. Pray to God for that every day, that somebody is finally spoken up, because I don't know what else to do if somebody doesn't come forward.
And what stands out to me on that, Jinx, and you know this as well, so do you, Kim. We knew, almost a year and a half ago that the FBI was involved with this case. It's taken them that long to get to this point, so that they haven't stopped investigating. It's just how long investigations take. So
right.
I know patience is a virtue, and Drew is a saint. And I love the fact that he's trusting law enforcement and letting them do their job, because he could really, at this point, he could do nothing but hurt the case. You know what I mean? But I would understand if he did.
Well, yeah, I mean, as a parent, yeah.
But the FBI has been on the Flora case, for a while. So there's things, I know there's things going on, because I talked to Jason. I know there's things going on with Drew's case that have never stopped, but it's a slow process. I mean, it's just, you have to just reel yourself in and let them do their job. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you said, there was some people who knew how long the FBI had been peeking around and snooping around and investigating Flora way deep behind the scenes. But since they've come out and made
it's a while ago. Yeah, James, how long ago was that? Oh, it was over a year ago.
Yeah, it's probably been closer to 2, if not pushing over 2 at this point. But I mean, who knows, with them being in town and everything else, and somebody maybe saying something. I know that a lot of people have mentioned other cases and whatnot. So I mean, if I have the opportunity to, I'll be like, hey, why don't you go look into the Evansdale case too? That's also important. Why aren't you doing that one? Which I might be told I'm full of shit. Maybe they are, but well, then make a move. You just did it in Flora, and Evansdale is definitely deserving as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that day that we all went out to Evansdale and got together, we had such a great time. Now, of course, I did not want to drink, but because of the company that I brought with me, I was forced to.
That's the dumbest shit I've
I'm putting that down to rescue.
I'm with Drew. That's the dumbest shit I ever heard you say. You was forced. Slide a cold one in front of him. He's gonna say, "You forced me." Chug, chug, chug.
Oh,
They
that
gave us
Mark
our they
says,
gave us our own
Drew,
section at the bar. They
but
gave us our own outside
yeah, so
section.
Mark says, Drew, I'm sure you've been entertained by the comedy team of Stephen Ruckus.
hey, you can ask Larry Crum. I am the most compassionate between Steve and I. Steve asked Larry straight up when he walked up, "Hey, Larry, who's more compassionate, me or Ruckus?" And right away he said, "Ruckus." But you know why? He said he just picked up a queer off the ground yesterday, talking about that transvestite.
Do we get a picture of that guy? There, I might even have.
Oh, that was funny.
So Sleuth Intuition says, do we have tunnel vision on Klunder, or is his involvement given?
What do you mean tunnel vision, Sleuth?
I want to
What do you
talk.
mean by that?
I do want to talk about that because, since we did the documentary, the tips have gone down quite a bit, and I do think that people are just in their heads are going, oh, it must be Klunder, but they
Yeah.
remember the state police say otherwise.
Well, they may be doing
Yeah.
that as a ploy, though. Drew. They may be working on Troy
Very
because
possible.
because listen, we're not stupid, right? Um, he's on probation. If he was going to do something like this, he would leave his phone at home. That would make sense. So for them, and especially Smock, he wants to talk, but he can't. You know that. But just because his phone was at home doesn't mean shit. We all know that. We all know that. So that's not. They didn't clear him by his phone. They're saying they cleared him by his phone, but that just doesn't even make sense. I mean, that's police 101. You know. So
I think definitely uh, a lot of people do have tunnel vision, but I would just tell everybody, until we get the facts, if you got information and you think, oh well, it doesn't matter, wonder, you could be completely wrong, and that could be the piece that's holding everything back. We just
yeah, Drew. I mean, everybody that watches that docu series, the 3 parts for Taken Together, I don't blame them for saying it was that fucking Klunder guy. It was Klunder, and Dylan did a great job addressing that stuff. But you and I both know, Drew, that he left some things out. The day that I went and met him in Des Moines, and we talked about other stuff as well. Klunder's not the end all be all. He may have done this, but it's not even close. Drew, there's other avenues that need to be looked at as well. But I like to get my hands on both Rickus and Troy and talk to them myself so that I can satisfy myself that that's not the case. You
right.
know?
Rick might have seen those guys. He's not friends with them. He's not anything like those two idiots, and he would never, ever in a million to a child. He's the most solid human being. One of the most solid human beings I know. He's a good man. And I think what it was after they interviewed him two separate times, years apart. I think he just got confused in his head whether he saw them or he got
Or talk to him on the phone.
and then
Yeah.
he didn't really want to be lumped in there with those guys, so he wasn't really wanting to interview for the documentary. He wanted to get me that information, but he didn't really want to interview and be known as being friends with those two losers. I don't think for a million in any world or any for any reason Chris had anything to do with that, and I will stand by Chris. Anybody says anything bad about him, I mean that he's if you know him, you know him. I mean,
Yeah, and I believe you. And you went to high school with him, right? I
he,
mean, you've known that guy a long time.
absolutely. If Chris said, "Hey, I saw the,"
Right. That's the only thing. Did he? I would want to ask him. Did you talk to him on the phone, or did you see him? Because he said both. You follow me? And that makes a big difference. I would never accuse him of anything. I don't think he had a part in it. But at one point, he's saying, "Oh, I talked to him on the phone," and then the next, even if it's years later, he said, "No, no, no, I seen him." So that's a big deal. If you saw him there, then he was there. During that time, that's huge to me.
I know that. I've known that guy since I was 15.
So about 10 years now.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've been very good friends with him for a long time. He's not. I don't think in any, not even a little bit.
No, I believe you, Drew. I believe you, and that's not how I've ever thought of him. I always just wanted to talk to him to say, which one is it? Did you talk to him or did you see him?
When
You know
they
what I mean?
were like, "Oh, he's lying." Well, Chris is not a liar, and he's not a piece of shit that would, the only reason he knew Klunder is because they went through that Christian program. That's how Klunder got out. It's like J16 program where they go through this Christian schooling, and they're with like 20 other dudes, and they're praying every day. And my friend Chris, um, he did some stupid shit and he went to prison. He did that program, and it actually took with him. He's a good Christian dude. He has turned his life around. He went to college after he got out. He turned his life completely around. He's got a nice family. It just makes me really mad when people question him and put him in a bad light, because he's a really good friend. And honestly, like, this documentary has probably because I don't really talk to him much anymore. I think he might be a little pissed because of it, and I kind of lost a good friend,
That
and
sucks.
they're
Yeah.
trying to help, but so many people have attacked him. I think he might be pissed off at me. I don't know. Like, I don't.
Well, I never would, Drew. I always try to go through you, and you told me no, so I left it at that. I wouldn't pursue that at all. I don't believe he's involved with this at all. Like I said, I just want to know: did you talk to him or did you see him?
I know that guy. Like, he's not.
Yeah.
There's no reason why. He has a reason. He's not supposed. Those guys are not those. If Klunder was here, he wasn't supposed to be here, and he wasn't
No,
supposed to be hanging out with Troy either, because they're felons.
exactly.
And Chris could have gotten in trouble for just stopping and talking to him for 5 minutes.
So, what do you believe? Do you believe he talked to him on the phone or he saw him in person? What's your opinion?
I believe they probably called him on the phone or touched with him somehow, maybe through Messenger or whatever. And then if he says he saw him, he saw him.
Okay. That's the only thing, because if somebody tells me they saw Klunder there, I mean, that's where you step that up. You know what I mean?
That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if he saw him at Troy's house, that's what, 8 houses from yours?
Yep.
But, to me, that's not the end all be all. Law enforcement wouldn't care about anybody's feelings. They would go talk to him.
The other strange thing to me, this is the weirdest thing about this whole conversation we're having here. They've never even questioned Chris. Not once. The police, the FBI, DCI, nobody's ever called Chris and questioned him.
Really?
Absolutely.
Even after the documentary?
Even after the documentary.
Wow.
So that's what does that tell you? I mean, maybe Klunder wasn't involved. Maybe
Yeah,
they
maybe he wasn't. Yeah, no, I agree.
and
Yeah.
and so maybe if they do know who did it but don't have enough proof, then there's no reason to question him. That's
Yep.
what like maybe they know exactly who did it, they just don't have enough evidence.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's for sure. He's like I said, Drew, I would never, I wouldn't go around you and try and talk to him or anything like that. I've always just left it alone. But that question's always been in my head because of that documentary. Now I've met Dylan and I talked to Dylan about that. And he told me that they weren't like one after another. They were separate, times. But it still raises the question. But I believe you, and if he's a friend of yours, he's a friend of mine. You know.
Honestly, anybody who knows that guy, really knows the guy he is, character he has. He made but nothing. And he definitely turned his life around, went to college, graduated college, and he's got a good job. He's got a family. He's somebody that went through that program and took it serious.
A success story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now Klunder's somebody that he used that program to make himself look better, himself appear
Sure.
he had his shit together when it was just a ploy. He was just using it.
Yeah.
Early.
Now, when Klunder was younger, he went to juvenile detention, and he escaped, and they found him at Seven Bridges. So he was familiar with that area. Yeah. So for law enforcement to say, well, he's out, we've already cleared. I don't think they used cleared. I think they just said, he was not there, and we have ways to prove it. He was probably at work. He worked for his father-in-law at a couple hog farms, and his phone was at home.
So with Klunder, could they be saying that until they get further evidence, because he's deceased, leave him off the table, like DNA technology like advances, and then they can say, right, yeah, okay, it matches him, so it's him. But they're saying leave him off the table. Let's focus on people that are alive and actively in the area. Could that be why they're saying that?
I'll tell you what I think is in my head a little bit is uh, if Klunder and him did do it, Klunder's dead now, and they have to have some damn good evidence now to because Troy could just say it was Klunder, it was Klunder, it was Klunder. And Klunder's not here to say, well, Troy did this or that. So they would have to have some pretty strong evidence against Troy moving forward because it just takes one person on that jury to come back and say, well, we think that he may have helped, but he didn't, do this. All he needs is one person on that jury.
But Troy does think it was Klunder. He told you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where, I mean, there's a lot, and I'm waiting to see where it goes from here in the next year or so, because I know enough to be more inquisitive on that side, but I mean, Jinx, and Rescue. You took the ride with us and went from the abduction site all the way out to where the girls were found. and it's just not a long drive. Once you park, it's a little bit of a hike to get back there. And we went there in the winter, so there wasn't in the summertime. This time of year, it's all prickly bushes.
With
There's gnats, mosquitoes, poison ivy,
the
bushes, you name it.
stuff. I got ate up out there. I was out there for probably 45 minutes. I got ate up. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy how
So,
much is out there. But Jinx, what did you and Rescue think of the discovery here,
Well,
where they discovered the girls?
well, like you said, from where we left to get out there and everything, once we left Angels Hill or Angels Lake, and then went out there, it was like, it really wasn't that long. I want to say it was maybe 10 minutes, and then we were there. And then, we had to get out and walk, and now that was a trek. But even in the winter, it wasn't necessarily the easiest. It wasn't the easiest for me, obviously, but there was still some thicket areas and stuff like that, and overgrowth. It hadn't all died off, and it wasn't the easiest to necessarily walk through. You still had to walk over limbs that were falling and things like that. So, I
Mhm.
mean, somebody had to know that damn area, is all I'm going to say. That wasn't just like a little path that was like, oh, hey, look, you can just walk right here too. It's right here. It's a great path to, ride bikes on. No.
Yeah, it's not a hiking path. It's not paved. It's different trails. What do they call it? Game trails. Very thin, and if you don't know which one you're following, I mean, it's easy to get lost out there. And the summertime, it's even worse.
you can't see 20 feet inside there in the summer. It's so packed full of trees and brush. And so,
Bugs.
oh my God. Oh, terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
Rescue. Rescue. Rescue, what did you think about getting out there?
Well, at least we didn't have any mosquitoes like Ruckus did when he was out there. There were no mosquitoes, that's for sure. Very desolate. You get out there and you kind of forget that you're in Iowa, middle of nowhere. Was there one house at the end of the drive, end of the county
No,
road coming in? I thought there was a
if
house on the right
you went straight, there was a junkyard. You know where we had to
Yeah.
stop and turn. If you
on the
went straight
highway.
to that other fence, oh, on the highway. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, there was like a farm there or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay,
was going to say like
yeah.
a farmhouse or something.
Yeah, but you don't feel like you're in Iowa anymore. We got out there and we're tripping over everything, freezing, and all of us, well, all the women had to pee. That's all we talked about was how bad we had to pee. Very, very beautiful, just absolutely peaceful. It's hard to believe that anything happened there.
Yeah.
We say the same thing about Delphi. You get out there and it just overtakes you because it's just gorgeous. Just a beautiful,
Right.
serene area, and it's hard to fathom what happened
But
there.
it's not manicured anything like Delphi was
It's
even
true.
back then when
Oh,
it
That's
no,
happened.
true.
no way.
Good point.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
said, it's game trails, they're very
Yeah.
thin walking trails,
Yeah.
and it's not an actual walking path or a legit trail by any means. It's just a somewhat walked on path by hunters, you know what I mean? It's and you can lose sight of it in a second.
yeah, exactly. And once you get to that area, to know how to get to the area where they left the girls, where they wouldn't be noticed, for 6 months. I mean, it was 6 months. So that's not a heavily traveled area, even though there are some little game trails that go back there. Where the girls were found is not an area where a lot of people go. It took 6 months until they found their remains. And so whoever did this, they knew that area well. They knew it well. They knew not to walk along the game trail, but to branch off and go off, and nobody would find them for a long time.
How far
So
is
Bossy
Seven
says,
Bridges from
so
Klunder's other mess up where he went out in the woods with after the pig barn and Desi escaped and Kathleen? Oh, goodness. I can't think of her name. The girl who died. Kathleen?
Are you talking about Klunder's victim?
Yeah, yeah. Desi survived, and I can't think of the girl's name.
Yeah, it was Kathleen, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, so Bossy says, so it's a deer path or about that size, on about what you were talking about.
Not even.
Uh,
Maybe.
Not
Yeah, that's
even. A
not even.
small game trail. Small game. Yeah, I wouldn't even
yeah,
say. I wouldn't even say deer.
it's just barely that.
There's no garbage or anything out there. It's very clean. I know that you had said that there's a bunch of maybe teenage parties out there. They go out there and trash, but we didn't
Yeah.
see any trash in the winter, so I don't know.
Now, when we were there, how long had it been since they blocked off, some of the part or the road that the Seven Bridges is on? Because I feel like I think we did 3 of the 7. Is that how many bridges that we crossed
I'm not. I'm
before?
not sure. I'm not sure. I think some of them
I
are
don't know.
further downstream.
I don't think
But
that.
see, this video here, that's in the summertime,
I don't know why.
Yeah.
and that is friggin' thicket, thorn bushes, poison ivy, poison sumac, poison oak, you name it. And you can see there's really no trails, right? But there is. There's a tiny little trail that I'm following there, and and we're talking now. You're talking about abducting two girls and getting them back to this area. And Drew, I don't want to sound too gruff, but I mean that's hard to fathom. It's hard to fathom. People look at things like this and they think, well, okay, maybe they carried them back there. No, they had their footwear on still.
I think they were murdered there.
Yeah, back there. They were taken back. Yeah, I agree. 100%. And there's no break. Once you pull into that parking area, and I know you guys have seen on my channel the video of Drew at the tree. There's a tree in the opening where you park at. That this is still a good 10, 15 minutes of walking this little trail and finding your way back to this area. So you can see why the girls weren't found. They were looking in the general area of Evansdale, and this is not Evansdale. This is 26 miles away. Yeah, the sleuth. There was no branches placed or anything like that. I don't want to get too graphic, but it wasn't anything. This has zero to do with Delphi. Um, Outside of the fact that there was 2 girls. That's the only thing. But it has zero to do with Delphi.
It's somebody local.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And they said that about Delphi as well forever. And it turns out, it was the guy that lived right there. You know. So I think, yeah, Drew, I think this will happen soon. Now that the state has those DNA facilities, from what I mean, without telling me, Jason let me know that he had access to DNA, whether it was he needed equipment to extract it or to read it, you know.
So
Now,
Bossy
see,
says, is that the only access point?
no, nope,
Really? I thought it was.
no. If you wanted to drive and park and camp there, then yes. But where we turned, I don't know if you guys remember or not, where we turned, we went over that little bridge and we turned to the right, and you can see where they usually have a chain up. If you went straight, you can see there's another gate, this chain closed, that they keep that closed off and open it up during hunting season. So that went around to the backside. And there's a junkyard back there as well.
If somebody would have, if somebody's got a couple girls, they want to limit their time of exposure. If you're parked, it's 270th Street is what it's called. But if you're a kidnapper, you want to limit your time of exposure. You would never park out there on that road and then walk them in that way. Your chances of getting seen are 100 times more likely than if you pull into the park.
Agreed.
The woods within 30 seconds from the parking area. You would never. I've heard people say, "Well, they could have come in." Well, yeah, they could have, but you're an idiot if you would do that because somebody might see you.
And they they definitely did not come from across that. It's a much bigger. It's a river compared to Delphi. They did not come from across the other side. There's no doubt about that.
Why would they? That would be. I don't know where the other side comes out, but it would be a hell of a. It's already hard enough trek to get back there.
Yeah. Why? Well, on the other side was plenty of places to hide them. But also, Drew, from the abduction point, 2-7 Bridges, there's got to be 500 places they could have dumped them if they wanted to. So that tells me that they weren't dead then. And I hate to even talk to you that blunt, my friend, but that tells me that they weren't at that point because they could have dumped them anywhere.
Yeah.
So, do you think the killers were also on bikes or a boat?
Vehicle. They had to get out of there very fast.
Oh yeah.
And how are they going to get two girls on their bike? There was definitely a vehicle involved, and
Yeah, you can get vehicles in there because on this picture it shows a few vehicles, doesn't it? So,
Yeah, where those vehicles are, right? Me, Drew, and the girls, we walked all the way up to where it says December 2012. We walked through the woods all the way up to there. And it's all thick. If you went 50 foot from where those cars are parked, you wouldn't be able to see any bodies there, winter or summer, because there's tributaries that run in there, and you can see some of them. They're like little grooves, they're little gullies, and you have to navigate those as well. And poor Jinx, I felt bad for her trying to get back there, but she did it.
Oh my
She's a
God, that's
trooper.
what I was thinking. I was like, y'all have no idea. There's like these little mini ditches that are in there or whatever, like you were saying, gullies that you got to traverse. And I'm telling you, even in the wintertime, them suckers are slicker than snot.
Yeah, yeah, they were slick. It was very slippery. And even in July, I mean, it's going to be slippery because it's wet and there's undergrowth and there's leaves on the ground under there.
Listen,
So
I'm just glad I didn't bust my ass. All I can say, I was impressed.
I was hoping that you did, but you didn't. So
I had to bounce back up. Don't worry.
you would have.
I
I'll be
just
right
went
back.
throwing in the trunk.
Yeah, I remember.
We walked out there with her on my shoulders the whole time.
Lord have mercy. Our teeth was chattering so loud. I was trying to listen so hard, but I could barely hear over my own damn teeth.
Yeah. Oh my God.
let's do the goal, guys.
Is the
You got
FBI
anything else,
involved in the
Gibbo?
case? Yeah, is the FBI involved in the case? Jumped again. Is the FBI involved in the case at all?
Like I don't know if they call it task force, but we've got um, Jason from Bremer County, and we have Scott Rieger from Department of Criminal Investigations. He's leading the case, and then we have a lady from the FBI, and then a couple other people come once. They get together like once a month, and they go through what they did last month, and then they decide, okay, well, you need to follow up with this. You need to do this. The person from the FBI is an analyst. Um, so she analyzes whatever they need analyzed. But going back to the FBI and the state people working in that Indiana thing, I definitely think they need to make the kidnapping, because ours is a state case. It's run by the state, but I definitely think they need to make crimes against children something where the FBI can be involved a little more, because they have just more tools at their disposal than, like, let's say, the state, or if it was a city case or a county case. They just have more tools. They have more people, and it has to meet certain criteria now for the FBI to be involved. So I just wish that could kind of change somehow, but it's kind of the way things are. But it's good to see that they're working together in Indiana, and in here, you hear about the state sometimes, and then the FBI not wanting to share information or work together. We didn't have any of that. We had Mike Kitzmiller was the head of the FBI back then, and he was throwing everything he could at it. We had the Black County throwing everything they could at it, early on, and as they found the bodies, and we had Bremer County, everyone just coming together, and as far as I know, they did a great job of sharing information and working together every day. When I would, during the first few months, we would go every day at 4 o'clock and have a meeting. The FBI was always had somebody there. Department of Criminal Investigations always had somebody there, and they were working this together. So, as far as for our case, that's how it was. Not all. I know not all cases are like that, but you hear so many cases where they're not working well together. But it's good to see them do that.
Now, Drew, I know this, and there's really not even a nice way to say it, but I know this has messed up some relationships for you. Do your in-laws, your sister-in-law and brother, do they have kids? Do you still keep in contact with them at all? Your nieces and nephews and all that?
That's more Heather's side of the family, and since our divorce, I Lyric's brother, he's kind of moved to Mason City, and he doesn't have anything to do with anybody. That would be Misty's oldest, Dylan. He doesn't have contact with anybody. I still talk to my nieces, Heather's sister's kids, that live here in town. They always tell me, you'll always be our uncle.
Oh, good.
And I have a great relationship with them. I love them. I don't have a problem with any of them. Me and Heather's relationship has, it's getting better now. When you lose a kid, everyone kind of handles it differently. I did it. I pretty much kind of isolated myself from everyone. And she handled it her way, and we just drifted apart, and things got really bad for a while. But she's got a really great boyfriend now that I really like, and she's doing better, and we're we can talk now without fighting, and time heals a lot of that.
Yeah.
But for a while it was rough. But we're just kind of I have to when I'm talking to her, I try to remind myself, you don't have to say anything. Where before,
You breaking up a little, buddy.
I think we're going through that. So I just, I try to remind myself not to be a jerk. I don't have to think about any marriage.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to say anything, but Heather was after me for a while. Yeah, I didn't want to say anything. Yeah, she was after me for quite a while, but I can't be bothered with that. Yeah.
I don't think her boyfriend would like
Hopefully, hopefully we see Bonnie's hand come across in a minute and just across his head. Right, so we're nearly up to 2 hours and it's nearly 3 a.m. here, so I'm going to wrap this one up now. Drew, is there anything that you want to say before you go, or anything that you feel needs to be said before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm gonna drop off so you guys can finish up here. Drew, I'll hit you up tomorrow, brother. I love you, pal.
Bye, Ruckus.
I guess that the main thing I would say, I guess, to everyone that's still following this case that wants to see it solved, I appreciate the messages, the prayers, just everyone's support over the last 13 years that we've gotten. We just appreciate it. It's some of those things you might not think are a big deal to the family, but just some of the messages you get that people are still hoping for results, and that, and to the person that did this, I would just say that knock's coming, and we're coming for you, and nobody's giving up till that day comes, so be ready.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yes.
So Sleuth's got a live on Evansdale. I believe it's tomorrow. Aurora's just shared the link to it. So if you can click the link and set your reminders so you can see what Sleuth's going to be putting out tomorrow, that'd be great. Drew, thank you for coming up and thank you for your time.
Hey, Drew, actually, I'm sorry. I know that you had mentioned that the since the documentary and whatnot, that the tip lines haven't been receiving as much as they had in prior times. So if there is a tip line for information that you can send me, please do, because I will blast that everywhere and and beg for people. If you know anything, please send it into this tip line for Evansdale.
Rescue, anything you want to say before we go?
No, I'm great. Thank you very much. Thanks, Drew.
Okay.
Have fun with Larry.
Right.
Again, thank you for coming, Drew, and thank you for your time. Right, guys, I'm going to end the live now. If you're on the replay, please hit the like and please share the live to help spread Drew's message. Thank you to everyone who came, and obviously a special thank you to Drew for coming. That's it. Yeah, that's it. So that's the end of that. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you for sharing Lizzie with us.
Thank you, Henry.